Hi loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to be continuing my Mars in the House Overlays in Synastry series. So this video actually should have been the first video that I did because we're going to be talking about Mars in the first house in Synastry. So if your Mars is falling into someone's first house or their Mars is falling into your first house. Now, this one is actually the most natural overlay for Mars, and by natural, I just mean that because Mars naturally rules Aries, which naturally rules first house, this one has the most easy association with, all of the qualities of Mars in its fullest expression getting to be expressed in this particular relationship. So this is a very active relationship. It's not like a super reflective or internal placement to have Mars falling into someone's first house. And it's definitely the most physically attractive or sexually attracted placement of Mars. Not that you can't have physical or sexual attraction and compatibility without this. You can have it with any of the overlays, but this one tends to create the highest level of attraction and sexual buzz in the more physical way, right? We can have other sexual overlays like the 8th house where we're, having this more deeply bonded sexual experience that's very emotional. This is not that. This is what happens when you see someone, so the Mars person sees the house person as someone that is like their physical ideal, someone who is, like, yeah, in one of my books it says, oh, this fine specimen or something like that. So the Mars person with this overlay really sees the house person as someone who is hot, okay? And even in a friendship relationship, there's still this like general assessment that the house person is someone who will look good with them or allow them to express a more outward energy of their Mars. So you have to look at the sign that Mars is in the person that's, the house, the Mars person's Mars is falling into this house, which is the first house person's, and maybe it's their ascendant as well. But it's not always. Sometimes, you have multiple signs in your first house. But this is doubly powerful if it is actually the person's ascendant, or if we have Mars conjunct the ascendant in Synastry, that is extra powerful as well. But the Mars person sees the house person as someone who will allow them to express that more primal energy of Mars. So this can definitely create a high level of sexual attraction and pull towards the person. But even in a non-sexual relationship, it can actually show that we just are attracted to someone physically because we want to do things with them, or we feel like we would have an outlet with this person to be able to be, more of our Mars self, which is our, primal instinct, energy, assertiveness. So you actually feel more confident with this overlay. And the house person can really be given a burst of energy. Like when I've had people with their Mars coming into my first house, I really feel like a more natural version of myself and my Aries ascendant self, and I'm able to really get that energy out there in a more stronger and confident way. And this doesn't have to be just totally sexual. It can actually be such a big, confidence or ego boost with this placement. Sometimes even too much so, where you find yourself acting maybe even more egotistical than you would be without someone's Mars coming into your first house. But it definitely, like, if you have conflicts to your own first house and your own Mars, having this overlay can really give you a boost and get you out there and get you more, like, extroverted and, expressing a more natural, confident energy of your first house or ascendant self. So it's actually really good. I mean, because if you think about it, if you're not blessed to have Mars in the first house in your natal chart, when you get this in Synastry, you really get a boost of like active energy. Now, the downside of this placement is like there's not a lot of internal reflection. So the action is very instantaneous and passionate and impulsive. And so, you might need to sometimes take a step away from this relationship and think about things, because this is not really an aspect of, thinking and reflecting and, being sensitive and internal, right? So for some people, this could be a bit uncomfortable, because you get with this Mars person and you're just like, this really more outgoing, extroverted, energetic version of yourself. So there's a high level of energy with this placement. So, it's almost like you need to be doing some type of physical activity or creative activity when this overlay is happening for both people, because the Mars person is sometimes even going to act out in an overtly passionate or sexual way in some cases. And this can be interesting too, where sometimes when we have someone's Mars falling into our first house, they can come onto us in such an aggressive way that's actually, like, if we don't like them back, if there isn't other compatible synastry, it can actually be just a little bit too much. Okay, so this overlay can sometimes be a little bit too much, where usually it's the Mars person is getting a little bit too turned on by us, that it actually could be kind of off-putting if we're not feeling the same way. And it could also switch too. I mean, it could also be that the house person is extremely attracted to the Mars person too, and it just depends on what else is going on with this overlay, because it does create such a high level of sexual tension. And like, if this isn't meant to be a sexual relationship, it can be a bit too much energy. It can be a lot, right? And so with Mars coming through the first house too, there's that very outward level of Mars energy, which could also equal to fighting, because we're really getting a boost of that energy. So you want to look at what the Mars person's state of their Mars is. Like, is it more fighting Mars? Because sometimes this overlay can just make the people a lot more of their Mars energy. So you want to look at what that is. Now, if it's Mars coming in through the sign of Pisces or something, maybe they're not going to be, so crazy. But if it's, Mars in a fire sign or Scorpio, like, this can really level up that energy. And it's like, should be, warning label, proceed with caution here. But overall, because this is the natural placement of Mars, this is a really good overlay for a physical relationship, a sexual relationship, a friendship, where maybe you work out together, maybe you work on some project together, or you go out there and you're, out on the town together, attracting your next partner together. That would be a good use of this energy. And you're also very similar with this aspect. That's something that cannot be overstated, is like, the first house person and the Mars person are very alike with this. Now, the Mars person is maybe a bit more Martian, right? The Mars person is going to express this energy in an even more dominant way at times, but they're both very similar, and their approach to life, the way they act, is very similar. So when this couple, or if this is a couple, if you see a couple with this in their overlay, you'll see two people that act very similar, and sometimes this can show up in the composite chart too. Like, yeah, there can be a high level of similarity with this aspect, especially similarity with how the people act. So this actually creates a pretty comfortable energy between people. Like, when we have Mars coming through the 12th house in Synastry, things can get a bit awkward and weird at times, because it's like so ethereal and hard to pin down. But with this, it's a lot more comfortable and natural and easy to get along. And yeah, with the sexual undertones, it can actually just be a really physically compatible relationship in multiple ways. I mean, of course, in that way, which is a big part of this, but also just because the way you act and the way you approach things is very similar and very alike. And yeah, the house person can get a huge boost of energy and confidence from the Mars person, and the Mars person just feels like the house person is like the hottest, most worthwhile place to put their energy into. So yeah, it's really good. It's a good one to have. The dangers would only be that it's not very internal, but you could look at the rest of the synastry. Maybe you have other placements that would show a more reflectiveness, because this is just a lot of external energy and action and like, let's go get it done, let's get it on, let's do this kind of energy. So yeah, I would love to know your experience of this placement. How did it feel? Was it like this? And this was requested. I'm doing your request, so let me know if you have other videos you want me to do, and I'm going to do all of them if I feel that I can. And yeah, I do offer one-on-one sessions. My links are below. And yeah, love you guys. We'll talk soon. Bye.